Today's show is sponsored by ExpressVPN, one-click protection for all your devices. Securing yourself could not be easier. Visit expressvpn.com/funhaus.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Filmhaus, where we talk about movies, movie news, we debate the best and the worst that the film industry has to offer. Sometimes we talk about TV. We're probably going to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier next week, so I guess that's not a movie at all. But this week we are talking about movies, one movie specifically, and we're going to be reviewing the hell out of it. That's a reference to the fact that one of the characters goes to hell and then comes back. We're talking Mortal Kombat this week. This is our unadulterated red band review. Okay, we're going to save the spoilers to a little bit later on. What's that, Ryan?
Just like, fuck yeah. It's a red band review.
Yeah, nice. It's a red band review. You're right.
No holds barred.
Ryan, we have a couple guests this week. I've picked fine-tuned. I've picked my champions to discuss this film because that's the kind of opinions I want on this. And so I'm joined by Patrick Brown.
Hi. Glad to be here.
What's your
Ryan
arcana?
Haley.
What's your arcana, Patrick? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, my arcana? Snakes.
I'm pretty sure it's
Off the top of my head, snakes.
Arcana.
You have snakes come off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Yes.
Whoa.
Kind of on brand. I really want to talk about
pretty
everyone's
good.
arcanas because that really is something that amused me. Ryan Haley.
I'm Ryan Haley from the Earth Realm, and my arcana is I have fire on my lips that requires chapstick right now, or else they'll hurt you.
Fatality in the first game that we did not see showcased in the movie. And Chris Demarais.
Hello. I'm also from Earth Realm. My arcana is critters.
Arcana.
I got
Critters.
Yeah,
Ooh,
like
love that
not
movie.
not the 80s like creature
Oh,
film.
Oh, okay, yeah.
More like
Yeah.
I think like rodents and stuff. I can control them at my I can shoot them out of my fingers and
You're
stuff.
like Willard.
Yeah.
It's funny that none of us know. Yeah, he's right. He's Willard with the Crispin Glover's famous.
Have we
film
talked?
Willard.
Have we talked about that one on this
Next
podcast?
week we're going to be reviewing Willard.
I saw it in the
versions.
theater, so
Did you? Wow.
I don't know why.
So anyway, this establishes a pretty good baseline for all of us that we have seen the movie. I can say that I've seen it twice.
Oh my god.
And none of us seem to know what the rules are for arcanas
Can I be from
in any way,
Outworld?
shape,
Actually,
or form. What's that?
can I be from Outworld?
That depends. Do you like barren wastelands and maybe you carry a hammer?
Yeah, and I can also. I don't know if you knew this, but I can go to and fro wherever I want with some smoke.
With snakes.
Yeah, smoke
I have smoke travel
Snakes.
technology.
Okay.
With
All right,
snake
so-
travel. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about Mortal Kombat, but I want to establish a couple things first off. I'm familiar with at least two of the opinions here. Okay. I know how Chris felt about it because he stated publicly, and I know how Patrick Brown. Sorry, I said Brian for some reason.
You can. I guess you can call me Brian if you want.
Patrick.
That's
Patrick
his
feels about
combat,
it because
Mortal Kombat name.
We've
Yeah.
discussed it.
Brian.
I also know how I feel about it. That being said, Ryan watched it last night.
I did.
And so I haven't talked about it at all with him, so this is going to be a complete surprise. But I did pick it because I feel like generally Patrick felt pretty negative on the film and Chris felt pretty positive on the film. And so I want to make sure that we have a swath of Chris's face. Shock. I want to make sure we have a swath of opinions because if it were up to me, I would shit on this movie for 1 hour straight, but I don't want that to be what this podcast is because from the reviews, and I've talked to a lot of people about it, it's like a 50-50 split. It's like
Really?
a 50, it's a crazy 50-50 split of people that were like, that was sweet, I loved it, and other people who were like, why was this made and why does this exist? It's like there's no middle ground. I don't think that there's anyone who's like, like kind of about it. And I think that's really interesting for a movie, and I'd love to get into that. So I'm just gonna open the floor, and maybe starting with the opinions we already are a little bit more familiar with, we can just talk just broadly about how you felt about this movie. Patrick, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know what was happening in this. First of all, the biggest thing, there's no tournament in this movie.
That's true.
So,
Which is turn.
The whole thing of Mortal Kombat, the entire premise of Mortal Kombat is that there's this tournament, and they talk about the tournament for the entire movie, but it never happens. It's just people fighting each other.
it's called sequel, baby. Sequel.
Often in tournament-like arenas, but it's not a tournament.
There is text at the very opening of the film that says 9 out of 10 tournaments have taken place.
Yes.
And if the Earthrealm loses this final tournament, then Outworld gets to invade and essentially take over. And this is how they determine the hierarchy of the realms.
Which is the same plot as the 95 one.
Which is the same plot as the 95 one. It is also generally the plot of Mortal Kombat, just like in general.
Yeah.
And so it is established there at the very beginning of the movie. But yes, Patrick, you're right. At no point, instead, it seems like Shang Tsung appears as the villain and says, well, instead of doing a tournament, what if we just cheat and kill off all of the really pathetic, the remaining Earth warriors who seem to be chosen arbitrarily.
Well, no, it's not arbitrary. They have the mark.
Well, but how do they get the mark?
Well,
is
let's
my
not.
favorite. Is one of my favorite plot elements of this movie. Okay, so broadly, you're pretty upset that there was no tournament, and you were a little confused.
Yeah, I also don't know who. I spent a good chunk of the movie wondering who the main character was, and it turns out no one. That's just a new guy that they came up with. Also, kind of difficult to tell. He's a family man, and I think we talked about this, James. But it is at times difficult to tell who is his daughter and who is his wife.
I thought the first time I watched it, I thought that was his girlfriend and younger sister.
That's what I thought too at first.
Yeah.
But the second time I watched it,
they're very close in age, seemingly.
I can tell you the second time I watched it, it is more firmly established that it is his wife and potential stepdaughter or actual daughter.
Yeah.
That is still unclear.
I think I got to like stepdaughter. That's where I settled while I was watching it. It started out, little sister. Wait, that must be his daughter. Wait, I think that's his stepdaughter. That's kind of progression in my mind. You know.
I had the same logic pattern in my brain that you guys just had. But the thing that I didn't understand is, the guy who runs the gym seemingly seemed like he didn't know who this person was, the girl, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
And it seems like she should have been there the whole time if he's been raising her.
Like watching him get beat up, maybe.
I guess.
Well, no, because she's also his coach.
Well, right. That's what
all right. Okay. So we can dig into this. Let's dig into this. So Chris, let's talk broadly because you liked it, right? You enjoyed it.
I liked it. Okay. First of all, I was surprised by it.
Okay.
Throughout, whether or not, little sister, daughter, who knows? Constant surprises.
Keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Who knows? Maybe not. Not at all. Also, Scorpion. Can I spoil? Good guy. Right?
Okay.
I was like, well, that's different, at least from the previous movie. And who's this dude? This fighter dude, Cole. I don't know who that is. A lot of surprises.
Nor does anyone else.
A lot of surprises. You're right.
And then I thought the fight sequences were all fun and good and exactly what I wanted from a Mortal Kombat movie. They're like well choreographed, lots of blood. It was way bloodier than I thought it was going to be, and like, but not in a bad way, in a good way. Where I was like, oh yeah, they're really doing it. They'd turned the blood effects on in the options menu, and they said all the stupid lines that I wanted them to say. Like
they definitely
they
did.
Them all. And flawless victory.
And they found a way to incorporate them in a way that like was somewhat relevant. They didn't just say, they're like,
Kaina
it was a flaw. It
wins.
was a yeah.
Kaina wins.
Kaina wins. Well, he did win,
He did win.
He did win. You're right.
and
he
it was
did
a
win.
flawless victory.
Yeah. That's
And
Kung
his
Lao
soul was
says-
his.
So Kung Lao says flawless victory
Mm-hmm.
later on in the film. Yeah, and Shang Tsung says, yeah. My favorite is when I think Liu Kang goes like I think Liu Kang is the one who says fatality, but it's clearly ADR like later in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so you enjoyed the fact that you could not have in your mind predicted what this movie was going to be. It subverted a lot of what you expected from Mortal Kombat, but also delivered in other things.
It delivered what I wanted, but still surprised me.
Okay.
I didn't know I was wanting to be surprised.
Okay. All right. Ryan, this is what I'm very curious about this.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Mortal Kombat 2021?
Well,
broadly?
just to set it up, I'm probably the only one here, and I am ashamed, honestly, even say this, that I have never seen the 1995 Mortal Kombat. All right, yes,
What?
James has, for the audio listeners, James has his head in his hands. Chris Demarais his hands went up in the air.
my God.
Patrick is wheezing or something.
Snakes are coming out of his
I'll
head.
watch it tonight.
Yeah.
If you want to
Well,
watch
that's why I
it,
have the
I'll
hat
watch
on.
it tonight.
So I have a very good reason. Oh, right, what? It was 1995, so I was 9, and I was not 13 yet, so my fucking mom wouldn't let me watch it, okay? And then I just never went back and watched it. So I blame my mom. It's all on
I
her.
was
All
I was
on good
11,
parenting.
and it was a transformative experience for me.
You weren't 13 yet, and you got to watch over PG-13
Whatever.
level movie?
My mom
Oh
went
my
to the
God.
store when I was in when the first game came out on Genesis.
Yes.
She went to the store when it opened at 9 a.m. to pick up my fucking pre-order, and we got it on Genesis because that's the one that had the blood code.
We come
So-
from different worlds, James Willems.
I
But
saw
yeah,
you
here we
there.
are.
Mom,
So
if you're
anyway,
going
I-
to the store, pick me up a Mortal Kombat and a box of rubbers.
No, never mind. Jay, don't need
A whole
the
cotton of
rubbers.
cigarettes, smoke them all.
Okay, so you've never seen. So this is your first Mortal Kombat movie.
It's my first Mortal Kombat film. I'm obviously familiar with the video game series. I love the newest ones. Like to me, the old ones when I was growing up were cool. I was more of a Street Fighter man myself, but now that like they've gone full on like the gore cutscenes, I'm just so all about that. I love
good.
playing a new Mortal Kombat and going through all of them and seeing all the fucked up ways they've figured out how to kill people, the psychopaths that make that game. So anyway, I was excited to see that part of this. And I didn't go into it blind. I went into it after you said that it's hot. I want to say hot garbage, 2 hours of hot garbage. You hated the movie. So I knew that. Then I had my friends Adam saying, dude, you've got to see about Mortal Kombat. I fucking loved it. So I got the 50-50 people coming at me. And
50-50.
before I watched the film, I was like, dude, I think I'm going to love this movie. And sure enough, I kind of did. I'm definitely in the Chris Demarais camp. I mean, once I kind of saw what they were doing, which is basically like fucked storylines. It's just like the game. Just come to watch the people get murdered in fun ways. And if that's all you're there for, you're going to have a good time. If you're there for the canon and the in-depth character arcs and whatever that I assume James, as a huge fan since the age of 11, you really get into the characters. I don't care at all. I love the blood. I like violent movies that go heavy on the blood. I loved how you get stabbed in the spleen, a whole 2 gallons of blood would come out and they'd just be fine still, keep going. That was great. So it was definitely all about the just waiting for the next person to get murdered in fun ways. I loved when that girl Melina got cut in half by Raiden's helmet or somebody else's helmet.
Yeah.
I don't know the characters.
It was
It was
Natara. Wow.
Natara, whatever. It was that was probably the highlight for me, but a lot of stuff there was just fun stuff throughout. So I'm gonna go solid B- overall.
Okay. All right. And again, I respect everyone's opinions, and it's something I've seen. Listen, I actually saw this movie a while ago, and so I've had my opinions on it for a while, and I was just waiting for it to come out to see, is this gonna be? Well, how are people going to feel about this? And so I am not shocked to hear that people are 50-50 on it. To your point about the gaming stuff, there is definitely legacy effect from the having played all the games, really loving all the games. But I do think for me personally, especially the most recent games, part of the reason I just couldn't enjoy this movie is because it felt more like a throwaway video game than the games feel now, if that makes sense. Like if you play Mortal Kombat 11, the characters have very unique play styles, and they have different, every character like uses a different martial art, and those super cinematic moves that they do, most of the best stuff that's in the movie is stolen directly from the game. But I feel like in the game it's shot better. Like it's weirdly like, it's like I feel like the fight scenes are better in the game, and even like stuff like characters like Sonya or Kano or whatever, I feel like there's more personality in the game when you're playing as them. So you'll do a move with Kano where he'll like grab him, throw him down, and chop him, and he'll like laugh and stuff. Like, and I felt like there was more personality. There's more personality currently in the game than there was in this movie, and I think that was hard for me. And then again, you add a new character. This movie adds Cole Young, who is the bloodline of Scorpion. And you're like, okay, I have no problem. Tons of movies have always added a new entry point because they're trying to get you into this world. But my weird thing about this is it feels like they abandoned that. They realized he was boring. Like 20 minutes in, they were like, oh, shit, we don't know what this guy is. He is pretty boring. And then the whole movie shifts its perspective to Kano, who is actually interesting and fun to watch.
He was pretty fun to watch.
He was great. I honestly loved him in this movie.
I thought his performance was great. I was like, this is exactly the Kano I want.
But he's like stealing scenes from all the other
everybody
characters.
else.
From everybody else, he's stealing scenes. And for me, like as a movie, that's just such a weird thing. I think that's how I felt most of the time as I was watching it. I'm like, what's going on? Like, it didn't feel like anyone was in control, I guess, is kind of in the end.
It felt
I don't know
to
what
me
the movie
like
would have been like without Kano. I will say that. I was like, that first half would have been pretty boring without Kano.
Yeah, I agree.
It felt like to me one of those movies that they make just to hang on to the rights, but with like a slightly higher, like they took the script for a movie that was written to hang on to the rights, and then they just like injected a lot more money into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was honest. Sorry.
It's like two locations. Yeah,
but I counted the locations. I was texting with someone last night, and I counted the locations, and there's like 6. There's 6 locations. There's
and it's largely
the temple where they train, the MMA ring. There is
the trailer park,
Sonya's house.
Yep,
Cole's house. And Scorpion's house.
And I think Sonya's house and Sonya's house and Cole's house, I think, are the same location but
you're talking about outside the yogurt shop.
One is at night and one is
as a location.
And Scorpion's house. Scorpion's house.
I said Scorpion's house.
What about Sub-Zero's house?
There are also some obscure locations that pop up towards the end of the movie, like the pit, right?
Yeah.
We fight on the pit. By the way, no one gets knocked into it. I was disappointed.
Yeah, what the
fuck?
What the fuck?
Like they fight on the pit and no one gets knocked in the pit. I was like, anyway, sorry, I'm getting worked up.
That is a criticism. That's a valid criticism.
Well, Ryan, you were gonna say something.
I was just gonna say that based on especially your review and how shit it was, I was expecting shittier action and violence and stuff. Like, I really think that because I agree with you. I'm sitting there watching this is such a jumbled mess of a structure of a film, but every time a really cool action scene would go by or a stunt would happen, I'm like, well, that was really well done. But so somebody is in control. Maybe the VFX supervisor is the only one that really knows what's going on in this fucking thing, and was just
maybe. I mean, I think there's some good fight choreography. I think that fight choreography suffers when there's a CG character involved, though. Like
the four-armed man.
Goro,
Prince Goro.
I also think the fight with Reptile is just, in my opinion, is completely confusing and kind of really bad.
Is that the one where they put the flare on him?
Where they put the flare on him.
Yeah.
And it's like, it ends cool because it ends with Kano doing his thing, but there's like a bunch of setup. And I watched it twice. Okay. Cause I saw it a while ago, and then I was like, okay, I want to make sure that if I'm going to talk about this, I'm going to like make sure that like I'm familiar with it. And I also had a friend who hadn't seen it. So I was like, I'll watch it with you. And so my friend fell asleep. So I watched it again, and I was like, it's just real. There's a lot of cuts that don't make sense. And this is a problem with the whole movie, in some of the fight scenes in general. People disappear when they're not in the shot. I don't know, which I guess is a video game thing, so it can save on RAM. But like, there are so many scenes where like Cole will like throw 2 punches, and then they'll just cut, and then it's Sonya fighting, and you're like, where is Cole? Or like, and that reptile thing is really weird because Kano just kind of like pops up and then does the thing at the end, even though Sonya got like thrown the knife in. Also, the whole movie shits on Sonya. She's pretty boring, but like it is really funny how many times Sonya says, "What do you think?" like that, and every single man in the room goes, "Why don't you shut the fuck up? You don't have a mark."
You don't have a mark.
You don't have a mark.
Sit down.
But I want to talk about just the positive things real quick. You can see where they really put an effort because the opening with Scorpion and Sub-Zero is fantastic. Amazing fight choreography.
Yeah.
I think it's shot really well. And the final fight, spoiler, with them fighting again is also great. They do steal like a lot of people. I've asked other people like it's a literally cool setting, but cool, there's like, oh, it's so cool. He like takes his blood and he like freezes it and he stabs him with it and he throws him through like an ice wall and stuff. And I'm like, that is literally what he does in the game when you press L and R at the same time. Like they pulled the coolest shit from a game already. But I don't know. It's just it's weird. It has these like huge ups and huge downs, and like they clearly hold elements of the game in high regard. So much so that they feel like we can't get out of this unless we have Shang Tsung say "Your soul is mine," or like, you know, or flawless
it's funny
victory.
It's funny that you see direct shots taken from the game as like a negative drawback. You're like, oh, you just stole that from a video game.
No, it's because that's the problem though. It's in the game, it's better.
Okay,
and I feel like. And when we go back to like Mortal Kombat and where it came from, people are saying, oh, we really like this movie as much as we liked Detective Pikachu and Sonic the Hedgehog, and we're like finally making like really good video game adaptations. And while I didn't particularly like Detective Pikachu or Sonic the Hedgehog, I totally get that people are like, we are figuring out how to tell stories of these things that are just like jump, run, jump, do nothing, right? Like we're figuring out how to turn it into a narrative, except that Mortal Kombat only exists because the makers were obsessed with Enter the Dragon and essentially adapted a movie into a video game, So it's weird that Mortal Kombat was never just like a game without story. It was like one of the video games that was like the story was like the driving, probably better than the gameplay. Was like a driving factor. So it is weird when they were like, well, let's change it.
I never knew the story till now, so it's funny that you said that.
Yeah.
I knew the story. I mean, I knew the story of the first one or two, and I knew it got pretty nuts in the game.
For sure.
And I remembered the story of the first one, first movie. So, like, as someone who liked the games a lot when I was younger, but then had kind of like not really kept up with them. And so this was more like a revisiting childhood thing. I was like, this is super fun and I'm having a great time. This is just what I wanted as a kid and as an adult. Like I'm happy as with both of them. But I could see how if you as a fan of the games had kept up with them and had seen them get better and progress and all these other things evolve, could also be disappointed in that it is so simplistic and like not maybe not as good as the games are now, but having based it off of like I never really played heavily past like maybe the fourth game or something, and really didn't get involved since I was a kid. Like I was like all for it.
Yeah, and I get that. Like it definitely has those like it does feel like this movie is what you pictured in your head when you were playing the game as a kid. But the weird thing is, if you've been keeping up with the games, they already made that game. Like they already made that thing, and you can go play it. Like you know, and it's pretty interesting. Ryan, you haven't seen the 1995 film, but I'd be curious what you would think if you did see it, because for me, watching these two, it felt like this movie is what would have come out in 1995 when someone was trying to tell a studio executive like we need an entry point for the people aren't going to understand, you know, like when you think about comic book movies before a certain point, and they are all like, or the Mario Brothers movie is a perfect example. It's like, how do we make a game about the Mario Brothers? They're like, they go in and there's a city, and like they add so much shit. Because
that's
like,
still the only good video game movie.
Mario Brothers?
Yes, and and 95 Mortal Kombat. Those are the only two good video game movies.
And Angry Birds. Don't forget that
And
one.
Angry Birds.
Oh, Angry Birds. That's fair.
And Far Cry.
But it is interesting because now we have situations like Marvel movies and stuff where we're just straight up adapting the source material because we're like, oh, we trust that it's good enough. You know, we're actually changing things to make it movies, but like we trust that the source material is good enough. And it feels like Mortal Kombat 1995 would be the movie that came out today. Because it's straight up, like the beginning is like straight up a character select screen. It's like your favorite characters go and then participate in all the phases of the tournament, essentially working their way up the ladder. And then at the end, it has what would be the final fight of a Mortal Kombat game. Like, it's pretty weird how the adaptation, someone in 2021 was like, people aren't going to understand Mortal Kombat, you know? It's
Are
weird.
you saying Paul W.S. Anderson was ahead of his time?
Yeah, I mean, he's made a couple good ones.
In all things.
Do you think, and this is I might agree with you, I don't know. If would the movie have been better if they had just they'd gone to the actual tournament and participated?
I mean, it depends on what they did with it, but I think so. I want to get into, I have the Wikipedia open, and we can kind of like talk through the plot of the movie, which will have all kinds of spoilers and stuff, and we can just get our genuine reactions to different things. But I do want to talk more about my thoughts on that and like how they chose to pick and choose things from the game right after a word from our sponsors. It's 2021, and a lot of us are being more open talking about mental health. That's why we're excited to be sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. There's some misunderstanding out there about exactly what therapy is, but here's the thing. You get to decide what your therapy is and what it isn't. You shape that experience. It doesn't have to be sitting around talking about your feelings if you don't want it to be. Whether you're looking for tools to improve your motivation, you're facing down anxiety or depression, or you just want strategies to improve your relationships at home and at work, therapy can help everyone. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers phone, video, and even online chat sessions with your therapist. Plus, it's more affordable than in-person therapy and can get you set up faster too. You can start communicating with your therapist within 48 hours, so join millions of people benefiting from therapy because you are your greatest asset. I'm a big fan of self-improvement in a lot of ways, and therapy is a huge, huge part of that. I hope that we can find a way through BetterHelp to making sure that therapy is accessible to people that need it, because I think all of us could benefit from talking about where we are in our life and where we want to be and the things we need to do to feel better, just in general. Filmhaus is sponsored by BetterHelp, and our viewers and listeners can get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/filmhouse. That's betterhelp.com/filmhouse. This episode of Filmhaus is sponsored by MeUndies. MeUndies are the softest, most blissful underwear in the galaxy. And speaking of galaxies, MeUndies is releasing a new version of a very popular past print. He's a 50-year-old alien toddler, enjoys eating frogs, and is a hide-and-seek pro. You guessed it, MeUndies is collabing with Star Wars to bring back the cutest bounty from a galaxy far, far away in their all-new print, The Child Returns. I love MeUndies underwears. I've said before that I think you can do a major disservice to yourself by not wearing a nice pair of underwear. I mean, you should be wearing underwear. And if you're going to wear underwear, you should make sure you're comfortable. And MeUndies are some of the softest, some of the most comfortable. And I also love for the exercise aspect of it. Sometimes you get those other cheaper kinds of underwear that feel bad and they get crunched up. And this doesn't happen. MeUndies sticks to you like a glove, a comfortable glove that has the child from a very popular sci-fi show on it. The Child Returns comes in men and women's undies, bralettes, socks, onesies, lounge pants, and buddy bands, so even your dog can don some goods. It also comes in sizes from extra small to 4XL. The Child has been the absolute cutest print to date. Don't miss your chance to have the brand new release. MeUndies is offering our audience 15% off and free shipping for first-time purchasers. Nab this cute little bounty before it's gone. Get your 15% off your order and free shipping, a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Go to MeUndies.com/Filmhaus. That's MeUndies.com/Filmhaus. Okay, all right. So we're gonna get into spoilers. I think that's an interesting question. If they just had a tournament with just really good fight scenes, I probably would have felt like maybe the premise wasn't betrayed more. I don't know.
I do remember at one point checking and like hitting the little thing so I could see where it was on the timeline of the movie. I was like, when are they going to get to the tournament? I do remember being like, yeah, it's like, we're like 30 minutes from the end of, aren't they? And then I was like, okay, I guess they're not. And then whenever they had that whole plan, it's like, they don't want the tournament. We're taking the tournament. Them. And then I was like, okay, I see what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing is like the tournament is what makes Mortal Kombat. Like if you take a step back, the tournament is what makes it interesting and kind of scary. Is that it's like a fight to the death between two people with like that has this important outcome within the lore and all that stuff. But when you remove that from it, it's just a bunch of people. Like these people show up at this place and attack everyone who's at this place. Then those people go attack them at this other place. And it's just like, I don't know. It kind of took all the stakes out of it for me. I don't know.
Ryan, what do you think?
Well, here's what let me portray a question to you, James. You know, you're our wrestling man in house, right? Is not what is wrestling, but not just like a glorified behind the scenes quote unquote of a show. This is kind of like it's like they're getting they're doing the wrestling thing. They're like showing you what happens leading up to the big tournament. And then in our sequel, we're going to get obviously a really cool Mortal Kombat tournament. Duh. Mm-hmm. So like this is like the big pre-show to WrestleMania / Mortal Kombat. And why don't you like that, James?
Well, it's more a couple things.
You agree with that premise?
I have a couple responses to that. Number one, generally pre-shows for WrestleMania are free.
Okay.
So if they wanted to release a pre-movie to this movie, which is like a short film about Shang Tsung trying to sabotage the tournament, I'd be all for it. But I do think that if the premise of your film is text on a screen that says there is a tournament and it happens and everything is at stake in this tournament, and then the rest of the movie is everyone going, the tournament doesn't matter all that much. I do think that's a little weird. And I think the only other wrestling comparison I could draw is that there was a long phase in WCW where champions would, like a match would never end with a pin or a submission. Someone would come in and do a DQ and it was very unsatisfying. Because you never felt like you knew who the winner was. So that's the only two wrestling comparisons that I could come up with.
I have one.
To respond to that.
I would argue that this is like if the pre-show was happening with a packed audience and it was like the backstage camera, but the wrestlers just never came out to the ring. They just all the fighting, all the action happened backstage on that camera. And you know, you're watching it on the Megatron, but they never come out to the stage.
But what if in the middle of the pre-show, the main show starts happening and you're like, oh my goodness, they're not even on stage and it's already started. Who could have expected this?
What?
That's fair. That's fair. All very fair points.
That is a fair point. I will to your point about the title card. I was thoroughly confused by that title card. Like I was reading an entire sentence. I'm like, I don't know what that sentence just said. What the fuck are you talking about? I even have it up here right now. And
that's my big thing with this movie sometimes is I'm like, why did you say something?
Yeah.
Like they could have done no title card whatsoever, and it still would have just felt like Shang Tsung's like, there are people that defend Earth, and if we kill them, then Earth won't have a defense. Boom, there you go, kill them all, right?
I was worried by the title card when it started. I was like, those are words, and
yeah.
I don't know if they all work.
I know each word's meaning, but I don't know when you combine them like that, what I'm supposed to mean. Like literally the last line, I have it right here. This is what confused me the most. A new group of champions will be united by the rise of Hanzo Hasashi's blood. And in my mind, I'm thinking of that literally. I'm like, okay, his blood is going to rise up?
It is literal.
It's kind of
but
literal.
It's literal.
Kind
at the end
of.
of the movie,
That
it's
didn't,
literal.
Yeah, it's like
but
that didn't. The opening thing is supposed to be like the simplistic, like here's the setup that you need, not like a figurative. Like let's get like into the title card was probably the worst part of the movie. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, me too.
But I think that's interesting because that's like I think where some of the division starts, right? Because like for me, I read the title card and I was like, oh, they're gonna take this very seriously. Like, I mean, but again, it requires me having that back knowledge. I don't know if that's the right decision for a broad audience to enjoy it. Like, but also on the other side, it sets me up to go like, oh, they're going to take this seriously. They're going to give us a Mortal Kombat movie. And then for you guys who don't give a shit about getting a Mortal Kombat movie, right? Like, you saw that title card and you're like, uh-oh. What is they're gonna be digging their heels in here?
Exactly. I was like, uh-oh.
But if they had just not had a title card at all, it wouldn't have set me up to think that they gave a shit.
Yeah.
So
I know.
It's kind of where I am.
They were playing with your emotions.
So I mean, it seems like removing the title card, the movie gets better, a whole letter grade.
It goes to at least B+ for me.
I guess the problem is that the title card is symptomatic of the rest of the movie, which is they keep saying shit they don't have to say, and then I'm confused when it doesn't pay off. It's like the opposite of Chekhov's gun. The whole movie is the opposite of Chekhov's gun. There's guns laying everywhere, and at the end they say, we don't need the guns. And I go, hold on, wait a minute. All right,
I don't know.
They don't even mention the guns.
I thought the editing, you were talking about the editing and how, cuts it makes. I thought every single cut made perfect sense. And
you should be careful with that one.
Dang it! It didn't work.
There's
I had this
thread of all the terrible cuts in the Mortal Kombat movie that I was looking through this morning.
Really?
And there's like several duplicate shots of like Melina in there, and there's also one shot of Kano that's like a flash frame that I think they left in.
What? There's a flash frame in the movie?
Well, the only reason I said that is because I had my second camera, and it was going to be so funny when I cut to it right when I said that, but for some reason it didn't work. So
it's okay. Don't worry.
Bit ruined.
So anyway, let's talk through the plot. So it opens 17th century Japan. Sub-Zero shows up at Scorpion's house, who's married, and it appears to be just a peaceful guy. It is implied that he was part of a very important clan of ninjas and warriors, but has now pursued a peaceful life. It's unclear whether or not he has participated in the tournament before, or if there are tournaments currently going on at this time. But either way, Sub-Zero comes, and then one of the things I like is like beats him fair and square.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't really cheat. He doesn't like throw dirt in his eyes. He just like he beats him, and I'm like, oh, I guess he's better. And then, but Scorpion, because his family died in the act, swears revenge. Except his whole family wasn't killed. There's a baby that survived, and Raiden shows up and takes the baby away.
I will say one thing. I thought was a lot. He went to go get water from that creek. Felt like that creek was like 30 miles away.
Really?
Yeah, it took him a lot longer.
It took
to get
a long
back.
time, but he still was close enough to hear his wife scream.
But he didn't hear the other people get killed.
No.
Yeah.
Nor
and
did
the whole village was slaughtered.
Yeah, and everyone was getting slaughtered and killed, but it was still like maybe like a 5-minute walk at most.
Yeah, well, this movie in general has a lot of. I don't know that the screenwriters know what distance is, because they do. That comes up later on in the film where I don't think they know what distance is. So anyway, he dies. The daughter's taken. Fast forward to present day, and there's a large prophecy text screen setting up that there's a tournament. The Outworld has won 9 out of the 10 tournaments. If they win the last tournament, then they get to invade. But there's a bunch of heroes who are going to be assembled and to fight back. We meet Cole, who is an amateur MMA fighter. The guy tells him that the problem with him is that he has no offense and is only defense, and that's why he loses. Then we proceed to watch a fight where he has only offense and no defense, and he loses. Which again, why would you say anything? Yeah. You could have just been like, you're not good. But it's like they forgot what they said in the scene prior.
Or just say you have no heart or some shit. Like make up something abstract. Yeah. Why do you say something specific and then do the exact opposite?
Or maybe something, considering you know where it's going, you could have the guy say like, listen, kid, if you could take more of a beating, you'd be unstoppable.
Sure.
Boom. But they literally go, you have no offense and you're all defense. And then we watch a fight where he beats the shit out of a guy. And as soon as he tries to defend himself, he fails. So,
yes.
Okay.
Well, and then it set up that uppercut line with the girl, remember? You know, she goes, give him your uppercut.
Yeah.
Huge payoff. Huge payoff there.
Yeah, then we get ADR of it later on in the movie, so it feels like they may have forgotten.
That was the memory of her saying that. It was in his mind. The memory
of her saying it. So then we also find out that, prophecy be damned, Shang Tsung has decided to just send Sub-Zero out to just murder everyone who represents the Earth Realm.
Cheaters.
All the Earth Realm champions, because they're a bunch of cheaters. So Cole goes out to Yogurt with his sister daughter and his wife girlfriend,
who is eating outside. While the other two eat inside.
And then
maybe he was paying.
I don't know what's going on.
Sub-Zero shows up to kill him because he is basically an assassin. Jax shows up and says, "Get in my SUV. Let's get out of here." They try and escape, but in the escape process, Jax stays behind, gets his ass basically handed to him by Sub-Zero, arms frozen, broken off. But before that happens, he's like, "You got to go find this person, Sonya Blade, Cole, because you're in danger, because you got that birthmark, and you're one of us."
Yep.
I would like to say that the moment that Jax got his arms broken off, his frozen arms, that was like the moment where I was like, I like this movie. I'm into this.
That was cool.
This is cool. That was a cool scene.
Again, I think as YouTube videos, this movie felt kind of like a fan film, like a really expensive fan film, where it's like if you watched it as like 5-minute YouTube videos, you're like, oh man, that was really cool how Batman fought Deadpool, but I would never want to watch a whole movie of it, you know? Because to get to that point, like I don't need any of that, and that's kind of what this movie felt like to me. So then Cole finds Sonya at her hideout, and she has been researching all this stuff about,
this is insane.
This part is insane. We get to see a Nightwolf cameo. I'm sure that was really cool for you guys, seeing Nightwolf.
I'm trying to remember.
Anyway,
which one?
She's talking about like the history of this tournament, and then there's a picture of a.
I missed that.
A picture on a wall. Yeah, I totally missed that one. I bet that was really cool though, if you knew it.
But here's the thing. She doesn't have a mark.
That's right.
And we find out that there is someone there who does. Kano, a mercenary, leader of the Black Dragon clan, who has his mark because he killed someone who had a mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, Ryan, go ahead.
So Kano seems like a smart guy, right? Why, when Sonya Blade offered him $3 million to go do this whole mission with her, how come he didn't say, show me the money? All right, like he literally said,
not
if
Jerry
you're
Maguire,
lying
all
about
right?
this later, I'm going to kill you after we do all the work, after we go on the plane and do all and skydive across the world.
His plane, everything.
Yeah, it's like, wait, you don't say, I'm going to need to see that $3 million.
Also, when you think about chartering that plane, like $3 million, he's barely going to walk away with anything when it's all said and done. Fuel and everything.
Oh, it's $3 million, yeah.
Anyway, while they're there, they're telling him about the stuff. Kano's there, and he's clearly a bad dude. But then Reptile shows up, who's like basically a lizard monster that Shang Tsung sends to kill more of the Earth Realm people and cheat. But they defeat Reptile, and Kano pulls his heart out. And then he's like, all right, well, I'm unchained, so I'm going to leave now. And then, like Ryan said, Sonya said, he's like, by the way, all that stuff, I know what you're talking about. Because there's a special temple.
Oh, yeah, I used to run guns through that mystical temple.
I used to run guns through the mystical temple.
No, you didn't. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. It's occupied.
Yes, he did.
I didn't really get why Kano knew that. I missed that line.
To move the plot along is why.
I think I was just like, I was still like, well, he took his heart. That's cool. And then I missed the whole like line.
Cool.
But I think that is, in terms of intention of this film, there is a lot of stuff that like it gives you something, and then it goes like, and then it suddenly talks really fast, like the end of a prescription medication commercial, and you're like, wait, hold on, what did you just say? So they trick Kano, who is a scene stealer. Again, credit where credit is due. This dude's fucking great. He's a great Kano. He doesn't have a metal face. He just gets scratches, but still, sure. Different take. I'm fine with it. He's super charismatic and super fun. And at this point, I was like, okay, all right, we got Kano now, and he's really fun. So like, this is gonna be fun. They get on a plane. Cole has a nightmare about Scorpion, and then they
forgot about the dreams.
They realize that they have to jump out of the plane to get where they're going. Now, this is something I was a little confused by, because they land and they say, where is it? And he goes, it's 35 days walk that way.
Why didn't they jump out just a couple hours later?
I mean, that's like way off target. That's like if you that's like if you were aiming for Florida and you jumped out in like Texas or whatever.
Oregon.
And then now people, a preemptive response, people are going to say, oh, he was clearly joking. I've done comedy. You could say I've done comedy.
I know a thing or two.
And that's not a joke. That's a lie. There's a difference.
Well,
that's like when people goes, oh, I was just pranking, bro. I'm like, no, you were lying.
Yeah.
And you're going to walk 35 days without even knowing if you have that $3 million in your pocket. I mean,
no supplies.
No food, no water.
No water.
Yeah.
So I assume it isn't. I assume it was just a shitty joke. And so they go about 5 feet, as far as I can tell. Kano has to sit down and rest. Liu Kang shows up.
Yep.
Which the first time I saw it, I was like, wait, was he just walking through the desert too? But I think he thought he knew they were coming, so he met them at probably like the 15-day mark or something.
You probably saw him, falling.
Yeah. But again, this movie doesn't really know what distance is.
Right.
So Liu Kang goes, what's up? He shows him he has magic powers. And he's like, listen, you train hard enough, you too can get a magic power customized to you.
Sometimes it's a magic power, sometimes it's a cool accessory.
Yeah.
It depends
on
on
the temple. Yeah, they go to the temple. Raiden goes, this is our sanctuary. This is where we train Earth Realm warriors. Sorry I didn't find you sooner. And I'm glad that you just happened to show up. That was very lucky of me. The protector of this realm. But you're here now and you're safe. So let's get to training. We also find out that Jax has been given tiny robot arms to replace his big muscular
little tiny
arms.
Yep.
Little tiny
they
robot
look very
arms.
silly.
T-Rex arms.
And they're like, sorry, this is the best we can do. Tiny and weak robot arms, I want to add, because that's important.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so Raiden, look, I know this is a new movie, but when you have a performance like Christopher Lambert gave, Why recast? Just give, like.
I mean, I feel that way about basically everyone except for Kano, who Kano is also fucking great in the first movie. But
British.
Sonya, in my opinion, Sonya is kind of worse. And
I like
Liu
Sonya.
Kang
I don't
is
know why
worse.
she gets so much shit in this pod.
Because
good.
she was played by Billy Madison girlfriend.
Yeah.
In the original one. 90s hard crush for most
Pretty much
dudes.
everybody, yeah.
I thought this Sonya was very attractive.
Well, it would have been nice if you were there in the temple, because she's with this group and then she's like, all right, let's get work. She's the only person there with any sort of motivation. And Raiden goes, don't you dare even think for one fucking second that I'm going to train your ass. You don't have a mark.
They are
Get
dicks
the fuck
about
out of
it.
here. Why don't you go sit on the fucking brown toilet and you wait? Go. Why don't you massage Jax's robot arms? That's basically what they say to her.
And she's just kind of like, okay.
Then she kills Kano.
So then they're at the tournament. So then they're at the temple, and immediately the bad guys just show up there, and they're like, "All right, so you're at the temple now, so we're gonna kill you all there." And then Kung Lao pops out of the ground, teleports out of the ground, and then saves Liu Kang from getting killed. And he's cool. But then Shang Tsung brings all his cronies in, and then it's like, all right, Raiden, I'm just gonna can I just kill these guys now? And Raiden goes, no, this is my squad, even though they only accidentally got here.
Yep.
And this is my team, and you better believe we're gonna train for that tournament. And I hope you're ready, Buster. And then he puts up a shield and forces them out, so now they can train safely, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Are we
That's what happens.
I'm with you.
Chime in at any point.
Well, I was just gonna. You should mention the
I'm just reliving
Arcana
it.
or
I'm just like-
Arcana,
Yeah.
because that's the whole point of their training is to discover their Arcana.
They're Arcana. And so that's basically a special move.
Yeah.
Is like is the quarter circle forward. We're trying to figure out where your quarter circle forward is.
Yeah.
And so and everyone, and so I think it's weird though, because it's kind of unclear what an Arcana means, which is one of my favorite things about the whole movie. So for Liu Kang, it's a fireball. We find out after a really awkward dinner where everyone just shits on Kano, and I was like, what is going on? Like, it was to make him angry, but like it's like the most awkward Thanksgiving dinner ever.
It worked.
It worked. It did work, but it made me like all of the characters less, except for Kano. Which is another weird thing that the movie does. As soon as Kano is introduced, it feels like the movie shifts its perspective and it starts focusing. And Kano, there are so many scenes where Cole is just standing out of focus in the background.
Yeah.
And people are explaining things to Kano, which I think is just hilarious when you introduce a new character. So Kano gets a magic power. He can shoot a laser beam out of the eye that got scraped. So that's his magic power. Kung Lao's magic power is he can control his hat?
I love that hat.
And teleport.
Yeah.
But he only does the teleport once.
But the hat's a lot cooler than you think.
The hat is really cool.
That's cool.
And then and so they train. They're really shitty, really garbage. Kano gets swept a bunch, which is a reference to basically like the first game where you could like sweep people over and over again, which is like a weird reference, but sure.
Because he's like, you always do that move. Or he's like, is that your only move?
Yeah.
Like,
It's like
I
that's
get
what
it.
people do in the arcade. It's just a really weird thing to like to
That's
bring
what I do
up,
with-
but okay.
That's what I do with Jax. Jax is my character, and I just do his ground pound with his arm thing, and then that's all I do, and I win sometimes.
So
51%.
Shang Tsung says they got a shield now. I got to recruit even more of my warriors. I don't know that there's an outworld birthmark. I think Shang Tsung lets anyone who's willing to participate, which I think is pretty progressive.
Yeah.
And so he recruits all of our favorites. We got Melina, who kind of just looks like a person. We got Cabal, who actually really cool design. and speaks with a New York accent.
Yeah.
And I want to know, like, there's things that I want to know your story. Like, how did Cabal come to be an outworld warrior when he clearly was like selling pizzas? Like,
Yeah.
He also had a
Like, only a few
backstory
years
with
back.
Kano too.
Yeah, which is a game reference thing because Cabal is like an enemy of Kano because Kano is the reason that he has to wear the mask. Anyway, and then of course Natara,
Yep.
Of course.
of course, and then my personal favorite pick, who, you know, if I was saying let's make a movie about Mortal Kombat, I mean the first character I'd say has to be there would be Cole Young, but my second would be General Reiko.
Played by Rictus Erectus
Which
from
is just so,
from Mad Max.
which is just so funny to me that they went through this list. There's like 500 characters.
And so many that are like very recognizable.
They said Reiko, which I think is great.
Is that funny because he's not a very big character for the
Yeah.
people who don't know what you're talking about?
I played every single game and I had to go, Reiko? And then I Googled him and I was like, okay, they meant Reiko.
Where the fuck was Johnny Cage? That's the only person I know.
Did you watch to the end of the movie?
No. Wait,
Okay.
after the credits?
No.
Anyway, so we'll get there.
It's just the end of the movie.
So that, no, we're like, we still have like 2/3 left.
Well, I did watch to the end of the movie, but are you saying there was a post-credit scene?
No, it was the end of the. We'll get there.
the very last
We'll
shot.
get there. We'll get there.
Oh,
and so anyway,
okay.
we have this huge squad, and so he's like, all right, let's get in that temple because I really can't wait for this tournament. Even though you guys have won every single fight, we can't wait for this tournament.
And it seems like they have every advantage in the world.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he's so desperate to whatever. Yeah.
And then Cabal's like, I'd love to get a chance to get some revenge on Kano. So he goes to Kano and offers him a bunch of money.
I mean, I will admit, like Kano just being so easily flipped as such was a little bit of a stretch.
Well, Cabal literally goes like, think of a number and double it. Then double it again. Yeah. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm that world now,
Okay.
which I guess is more than 3 million. But it's just, I don't think it would have been as jarring if it wasn't for the fact that it felt like Kano was the protagonist at that point in the film, for me at least.
Yeah.
So then Kano destroys the shield with his laser eye. And so they're like, all right, goody, we can get in there and then we can kill all these heroes. So they have a big fight. And I mean, someone someday maybe can do a breakdown scene, like shot by shot breakdown. Characters literally disappear into thin air during this fight scene.
Well, some of them have that power, James.
That's true. That's fair. It takes place in their little training circle. And there's like a moment where Jax is fighting another guy, and there's another guy, but they show them both, and they're missing in each other's backgrounds. Shang Tsung just kind of stands in one spot the whole time, but is constantly blipping in and out of existence. Either way, there's some wins, there's some losses. We got a really cool fatality from Kung Lao, who Natara shows up. She screams a bunch, she jumps at him, and then he rides her pretty easily and cuts her in half. He gets a flawless victory.
That's right.
And it's pretty cool. Reiko hits Jax with a hammer, and his tiny arms can't handle it. And Kano betrays everyone and beats up Sonya. Kung Lao fights Cabal for like a little bit, and then it's unclear what kind of happens after that. And let's see, Cole fights Goro because Cole got frustrated.
He left.
And then Raiden was like...
He was gone, right?
Yeah, well, he
was
getting
home.
frustrated. And Raiden was like, why don't you just leave already?
The frustration scene, though, is because they're trying to unlock his arcana. So the solution is they just have Kano beat the shit out of him. Mm-hmm. He's just standing there, and Kano is hitting him, and he's not supposed to do it. And Kano is kicking the shit out of him. That was supposed to work.
Well, but then even later after that, he's looking at a picture of his family. And he's like, I hope they're okay. And then Raiden shows up and he's like, why don't you get out of here, you pussy?
Fucking idiot.
And so Cole's like, okay. Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I was just gonna say the thing about how Kano had his big turn there. I part of me liked it in the sense that like it's like, okay, these characters are just fucking ruthless. It's like the Expendables or something where it's like they'll all backstab each other. They don't care about each other. And I kind of like all of your characters being that level of just kind of scumbags who are gonna, kill you if they can, in a way. Yeah.
It is weird though that it's like at a certain point I was like, why would do I really believe any of these people would fight for the honor of Earthrealm?
Right.
like, because again, the only person who like has that is Cole. He's the only person who has like a birthmark from his lineage. Then the rest of them have just kind of accidentally gotten it by like killing someone else who probably should have been there instead. So they have the big fight. Cole goes home, but turns out that Shang Tsung isn't going to let him survive. So he sends Goro to his barn. And then they have a big fight there where Goro fights, and it's fine. I think it's fine. A fine fight. It is weird, though, because in the 95 film, Goro has, like, an actual personality.
Yeah.
And, like, you kind of, like, but he's, like, just kind of a screaming monster in this. But he looks good, and the fight's cool, and he does some grab his arms and stretch him and stuff.
I thought Cole was going to become Scorpion. Like, I thought he was like his great grandson or whatever. He was gonna like get those powers, or like his arcana was Scorpion. He was gonna become Scorpion. So I was surprised to find out that he was like some sort of like whatever he was.
Yeah. Well, back to
he's got that Iron Man power from whatever.
His arcana is that he gets to have armor, like an armor chest suit, and if he gets really angry, then he gets like tonfas.
No, I think it's if he absorbs the damage, he gets hit. It's like
it's like
boom, boom,
it's
boom,
like
boom.
Black Panther, where he
that's
takes
what
a
it
bunch
was.
of hits
Black Panther
and stuff, and then he can transfer that energy in a powerful way.
Yeah.
And so now he has a defense, right?
Wow.
Except we were told at the beginning of the movie that that's all he had.
So but see now he has an offense because his offense is his defense.
That was clearly a typo that they just filmed and left it.
But if they had that coach not say anything, I would have been like, oh, it makes sense. He lost the fight because he didn't have a defense. So anyway, Cole has unlocked his magic power, and then he beats up Goro and keeps him with a finisher. It's pretty cool. Cuts his arm off and stuff. And then I like that watching it a second time, I realized that they just leave the body there for like hours.
Yeah.
Because then at the end of the movie, when Shang Tsung's taking the body back, he's still just lying in the farm. So then Cole's like, oh, I need to go help my squad. I have my Arcana now, and I need to help my squad. And so also along the way, since Sonya was in danger, covered in a boulder in a really weird way, because she's like, when he lifts it up, she's just like kind of completely conscious in the fetal position.
Yeah.
But he unlocks his as well, which is bigger robot arms.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, again, I don't know how it works. I really don't know how his Arcana. What would his Arcana be if he didn't lose his arm?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
robot arms?
Maybe
just bigger normal arms.
Maybe. But either way, so now everyone's got their Arcana unlocked except for Sonya. Unfortunately, Kung Lao is dead because Shang Tsung just grabs him and sucks his soul out. It's real easy.
I thought Sonya had purple energy.
Not yet.
She gets it later.
Yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. My bad.
So then Cole is the leader now, and he comes up with a plan, and he said, let's separate them. And then if we separate them, we can defeat them all, and then we all team up and beat Sub-Zero, and it'll be great. So then Raiden reveals that he has the magic power to teleport anyone, anytime, literally anywhere, that he didn't use when his heroes were lost or getting killed or whatever. So he just magically teleports people into different locations so they can have Mortal Kombat fights. Reiko, of course, fights Jax because Jax goes, "Give me Reiko," and then they fight on the pit. Cool, but no one gets knocked in the pit.
Boo.
That's a big boo for me.
Yeah, he should have smashed his because he smashed his face, which was cool.
Yeah.
But then he should have knocked him into the pit. Just
Yeah.
cause.
Something. Get
Just
somebody in that goddamn pit.
Yeah. And then we have Sonya fight Kano at her house. And a couple weird things. Kano gets teleported in and isn't at all like, why am I here? Like he literally gets teleported in and is like, all right, I'm going to go inside. Like, but she's like hiding. She's like doing like weird hide and seek stuff to fight him. And then at some point she throws something at his eye, which short circuits it, which was really confusing for me.
Oh,
the second
yeah.
viewing.
It was like, it was like water or something, right?
It was like a thing from the
was like a
medicine
liquid.
cabinet, but she
It's
threw
like
it at his
iodide
eye.
or something. Iodine. I don't
Something.
Yeah, it was
and
like
then
a
he
bottle
tried
of
to do it,
something,
and
I guess.
it short circuited on him. And I was like, so what is an Arcana electric? What is it?
Some are.
Like I'm very confused. She ends up defeating Kano using a lawn gnome that he spit on earlier in the movie.
know. Oh, that's where that came. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
where did that?
set up and pay off.
Good callback.
And then she gets his mark now because she has also arbitrarily defeated something. And then in a weird twist of immediately abandoning the plan, for some reason Cole and Liu Kang decide to go to not split them up and decide to fight Cabal and Melina at the same time. So that I thought that was a little weird, almost like they ran out of locations.
Almost.
But they fight, and Liu Kang gets to do a cool fatality and his bicycle kick.
Is he the guy that goes, "Get over here"?
Not
No,
Scorpion.
that's
No.
Scorpion.
Okay.
That's Scorpion.
I don't know.
Maybe the most
anything.
famous line and character
Yeah.
from the entire series.
Yeah. Cole almost loses again to Melina, but then Sonya shows up and she can fire magic rings now because that's her Arcana.
She figured out her Arcana really quick.
Yeah.
She was the best because she knew the whole fucking time, and Raiden said, "Stay out of this."
Yeah.
But either way, so then they're like, all right, we're all together and everyone else is defeated. We need to go get Sub-Zero, who has kidnapped Cole's family. And then Cole goes, I'll do it alone. And then, which is completely against the plan. And I don't know why.
Makes
that's
no
the case.
sense.
I thought he got
And I
tricked.
also-
I thought he got tricked.
Well, he jumps into the shadow,
Yeah,
the smoke,
because they have his sister daughter.
his sister wives. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, but we just established that Raiden can teleport anyone anywhere. So it's very unclear why they didn't just come a couple seconds later.
Maybe he didn't know where they were.
They were at the MMA ring from the beginning of the movie, where Sub-Zero said like this will really fuck with him emotionally, and so then they fight, and then, oops, he gets blood on the kunai that Scorpion had from the beginning of the movie, and that literally raises Scorpion back from the dead. So it is literal. The prophecy was
The
literal.
blood. Yeah. Wow.
Which was something Raiden probably should have done. He should have been like immediately.
Right.
Could have still
can I
been a
cut
little more
you? We
clear
need
in
one
the
more.
text. Yeah.
We need one more. Can I cut you immediately? And then Cole punches a bunch of ice while Sub-Zero and Scorpion fight.
The ice punching was cool.
It's also interesting too because it looks like he starts punching the ice. I noticed them the second time. He starts punching the ice and it makes like a power down noise, like his power isn't working. But I thought that the thing was his power. Like, I thought as long as he was wearing his like metal sweater, he was powered up. But
I think he has
guess
to be
not.
hit. Maybe the ice wasn't punching back, and that was the
Yeah.
problem.
I didn't get that either. Yeah.
Couldn't he just throw himself against the ice then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we are getting.
He was having a hard time with that ice.
Yeah, a pretty sweet fight between Scorpion and Sub-Zero, where they do all their best moves and they fight each other, and then eventually Scorpion wins, and then does his fatality on Sub-Zero.
Get over here.
Well, no,
It's not how it goes, but yeah.
It's Toasty.
Oh,
or whatever.
okay.
Yeah.
Never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about.
There's also a point where Scorpion says, "I am Scorpion now," and I don't know what that means. Like,
just
if
letting
his
them know.
like family crest was like a scorpion, or like even as he was like dying, he like reached out for a scorpion, or if a scorpion had anything to do with it. It was just really weird
Yeah.
that he goes, "I am Scorpion now."
It's his hell
as opposed to
name.
just calling himself by his
Cool.
name.
It's hell name.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a
That
cool
would have
name.
been really.
His hell name.
In the second one, they should have a the Toasty Man come on screen. You know, like we should follow
that'd
the
be good,
Toasty
yeah.
Man. You know,
Tobias or whatever. I don't
Sure.
remember who that was.
I want to see what that guy does in his free time.
And so then they basically killed all of the people from Outworld who could have been ready for the tournament in time. No one was trained
God.
to get into the tournament in time. So Shang Tsung shows up and he was like you guys suck. Like,
Yeah.
and they're like, listen, you tried to cheat. And then Shang Tsung, he's like, well, death is just another portal. And then so he takes all the bodies back, probably because they're setting up for a sequel. And
Mortal
and
Kombat
then-
in hell.
Yeah, and then Raiden teleports Shang Tsung away. He hits some electricity and teleports him away. And
Very
it's like,
easy.
why couldn't you do
Very
that every
easy.
other time he showed up? Every other
Yeah.
time. And so now they did it, and they're really happy. But then the last scene is Cole back at the MMA ring, getting ready for he's
Retiring.
He's retiring, clearing out his locker because he's going to go look for more people with the mark, which is weird that Shang Tsung didn't know about these people because he seemed better informed than Raiden was about these other ones.
Much more
and the
so.
camera pans over. He said, "Where are you headed?" He's like, "Los Angeles, Hollywood, California." He goes, "Who's there?" He's like, "Someone I'm looking for." And the camera pans over and it shows a brand new movie from Johnny Cage.
That's
What?
right. Okay. There. Yeah, that's what you were talking about. Forgot about that part.
Yeah. And then that brings us to the end of the movie. And then then the credits roll on it. So
All right. Well,
that's
thanks,
what's up
everybody.
for me.
I liked it.
Okay. I mean, again, I the experience has been 50-50. The best that I can theorize is that I think I like good movies and I appreciate Mortal Kombat as like taking inspiration from all of those things. So it's weird that we got this other movie that is like almost just like gratuitous. They're like, it's just a fun loving thing. Whereas it's like if you adapted Moby Dick into like a silly schlocky thing. It's like, but it's the source material is like solid. Like, you know, like why would you choose Moby Dick to do that?
Like, there's so
but
much to
again,
work with, and it just,
It did feel like it's weird. It's just, again, for me, it was weird choices like Reiko not having a tournament, like Cole Young as a character just in general, but then also ignoring him for half the movie. It's just really weird things. And I also want to recommend to everyone here and anyone watching or listening to try and find the thread of the bad editing in Mortal Kombat, because it really is funny. Like there's like literal shots that are duplicated and stuff.
I do think part of your problem, James, is when you go through and you talk about what happens in the movie, you know, it doesn't all add up. And that's your
Well,
problem.
when you're there,
Oh,
man.
that's my problem. Oh, yeah, that's fair.
you're
there.
thinking, you're you know, you just need to experience what's happening moment to moment, and not think about anything that happened before or might happen after.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I get you. That's fair. That's fair. I think I need to watch it again for the third time, but in VR, like an Oculus.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm only getting served. There's no other
Yeah.
anything happening. Like it's sensory deprivation chamber in an Oculus or VR, and then I can only believe in the single moment. Every frame I take as a single frame, not
Exactly.
as a whole. But again, I've actually been talking to a lot of people that like it and don't like it, and it's fun to talk about. It's not necessarily one of those movies that makes me angry to talk about. Suicide Squad I hated. with a passion. Suicide Squad still reigns as like probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen in theaters.
It's tedious.
Yeah, it's just a joyless.
It's not even fun.
Fucking
it's not even fun.
Slog.
Yeah. But yeah, any final thoughts? We've already gone a little too long, but any final thoughts on Mortal Kombat 2021? No opinions are unwelcome.
My only thought, well, it's less about the movie and just more about the future of the franchise. Do you think they'll ever have a Mortal Kombat versus Street Fighter movie that we'll get to watch? That'd be sick.
Movie?
Movie.
I don't think that will ever happen.
Fuck.
Unless they figure out video game movies to the point that they are as successful as Marvel movies and they're really looking for shit to do. That's when you might get into that territory, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
And speaking of Street Fighter, I think Street Fighter would have probably been a better candidate because the Street Fighter movie is shitty.
It's great.
And the story, like the Street Fighter games narrative, is like nonsense. Like it doesn't know what it is. It's completely confused and like nonsense. But you can literally play Mortal Kombat 11 and it's like there is a story mode and you're like, this is really good. So it's so weird that like Street Fighter is the one we want. Street Fighter, give them Street Fighter and then do whatever you want to in Street Fighter. We have like one good anime film and then that's it. Chris, thoughts?
I mean, I think I've said it all. You know, you just gotta experience it moment to moment and not think too much. It. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, okay. Just be like, this is fun. I'm having fun in this moment. And, you know, if you think about it hard, you might get hurt. So that's why you don't think too hard when you watch it.
That's fair. I remember I saw your tweet and you were like, this is the Mortal Kombat movie I always wanted as a kid. And I was like, but Mortal Kombat came out when we were a kid.
And I liked that one too.
Really we had two.
That was the one I always wanted as a kid too.
When we were kids.
Okay, yeah.
I wanted them both.
Your collection.
This is just like, that was exactly what I wanted as a kid. And also, this was too.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
The problem though is now you're an adult.
Yeah.
And it's bad.
It's the same.
It's the same.
More violent.
Anyway. What I wanted from a Mortal Kombat movie has not changed.
All right, fine, fair.
That's fair.
I liked the violence. I thought that was it was like, finally, a Mortal Kombat movie that actually has like Mortal Kombat level violence in it. Not even. I mean, they could. The games are way crazier with the violence, but this at least like had some attempt at being violent, whereas the old one is just a lot of punching. The old movies. But that's and Kano was good. Other than that, I think that's as much praise as I can give this. There's a lot of just like, ugh, and kind of groaning throughout whenever like whenever they say fatality. It's like, yes, I know. I know that I'm watching a Mortal Kombat thing. Thank you for reminding me though.
I think they should up the gore next one, personally.
I agree.
Harder gore, more violence, more extreme. Just go insane. Because that is, to me, the synthesized reason why I would ever turn this on. I want to see the fucked up gore. Give me more.
Yeah.
I think just take it serious. Like, they do kind of take it seriously, but, like, the one thing with the Marvel shit, like you were saying, is they take that stuff and they just present it to you, and they do it in such a way, maybe it's just marketing, but millions of people hear the phrase Infinity Stones and take it seriously and don't laugh at how stupid that sounds. So just take Mortal Kombat, just take the source material seriously, even though it's dumb, and just like, I think I don't know. It's just such
to your
a weird
point about
mess.
Marvel. To your point about Marvel, they take it seriously, but they also are very funny and they crack jokes about it, the whole time. So I think that you can I think that it is a good model for Mortal Kombat. You could take the story seriously, but also be poking fun at how ridiculous and absurd what we're watching is and the gratuitous violence, and kind of eat your cake and eat it too, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I think all fantastic points. I would only add one last thing. If we're going to be making Mortal Kombat stuff, we should follow the game's lead, and we should put RoboCop in it.
Yes.
Yes.
and Terminator.
RoboCop needs to be in every movie.
They have all these monsters and stuff in Mortal Kombat now, and you kind of like accept it without like even batting an eye, and it's amazing when you watch a Mortal Kombat gameplay that is like Terminator versus RoboCop, where Ed 209 shows up and like helps RoboCop win, like,
which would never happen.
Great. And it's, if we're gonna spiral out into that realm of properties that Warner Brothers can license or own, that's I don't care about Ready Player One. Give me the Mortal Kombat verse of shit, because I think that would be incredible if there was a fight scene in the warehouse and right before Jax dies you go freeze dirtbag and then it's RoboCop
shooting dicks.
Yeah, because he's saying freeze to Sub-Zero.
Oh,
there you go.
Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me for this. Sorry it went a little bit longer than usual. Sorry that we literally spelled through the entire plot of the movie. But yeah, this is a fun discussion regardless, and thank you guys for joining me.
Thanks for having us, James.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. And I think we'll be back next week with another episode of Filmhaus. We're going to be talking about The Falcon and Winter Soldier. We're going to be talking through that whole series. I'm not sure who's going to be on, but I'm sure you're going to like it.
So make sure next week to get over here.
Nice.
Nice job. Cut it, Cody.